The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
All right, we're going to be talking in a little bit with Susan Daniel, and she's the on Obama's false Social Security number. Again, all of these, you this, you that, well, just come on the radio show, any of you, the door is open, the phone lines are open, and explain to me, I know, it's all racist, birtherism, get that white sheet off your face, all those kinds of things. Okay, fine. Explain to me then, how does this guy have a Social Security number from Connecticut? That doesn't matter, you're a racist. Okay, fine. Well, good morning. In the Obama SSN and birth certificate, we say seeing's believing. Who you want to believe, me or your lying eyes? And how does Barack Obama get away with having a Social Security number that ain't his? And coming up, as I said, is Susan Daniel, and she's the Sam Spade on this, man. She's a PI. She lives in Cleveland, and I like her a lot. And she hasn't been with us. Last time she was with us before I got canned over at Brand X. So she's got some new work to talk about. But clearly, the POTUS, the President of the United States, has a phony birth certificate, and he has a Social Security number that ain't his. Does that mean anything to you? You go, oh, okay, all right, never mind. Drive on. Second gear, hang tight. Third gear, here we go. So his SSN is not his. That father's race African fronted off PDF file birth certificate, that's not true. Transcripts have all been deep six suppressed. And the beat goes on. And everybody, well, never mind. Without further ado, it's been quite a while since we've spoken. I love her work. Please say good morning. Welcome back to 710 KNUS. Susan Daniel from Cleveland, Ohio. Hey, Susan, good morning. Welcome back to the radio show.
Hi, Peter. How are you? And thank you for having me back.
No, it's wonderful to have you back on. We have been chasing who is Barack Obama. I've known you, I think, 7 years. I've been involved in this discussion, argument, investigation, if you would, for almost 9 years. And I forget who turned me on to you, but you were so brilliant. You've been with us, 5 or 6 times. I'm just going to, by the way, she's a PI. She lives in Cleveland, Ohio. She's gotten a lot of write-ups for her work that she's done in criminal defense cases and insurance works, and she works entirely for law firms, and she's unbelievably good at what she does. Let me just throw a question at you, and if I had come here from Mars and I said, Susan, who is Barack Obama? How would you answer that question, and why would you answer it the way you're about to?
I would say I don't have a clue who he is, because we don't know anything about him, and nobody will tell us anything about him.
Yeah. Well, that's my answer, too. I have no idea who he is.
I know he's a fraud. I mean, that's the best I could do.
Indeed. Why, this cadre of people that I include you in who have been remarkable in this quest, why won't anybody in the mainstream press pay attention to the obvious that this guy is a fraud?
Well, it's not to their benefit to do so.
Example?
Well, they want access to government information. In the meantime, everything they're told is a lie anyway. But they think they're going to get the scoop on all these great stories out of D.C., and they're all lies anyway.
Do you believe?
And they're also cowards. They like their paycheck.
No, I believe they're cowards. I believe that they're fearful. I believe that their politics match his. I can give you a dozen reasons, but someone I know Joel Gilbert, once spoke to the D.C. Press Club and said there's a Pulitzer Prize for anybody in this room that wants it.
Yes, and he's absolutely right.
All right, so let us begin. Barack Obama's Social Security number. Now, our server's down. We had all your work up for people to follow along. So it's almost become a joke for us. It has nothing to do with our radio station and Mark Crowley or Case or anybody. Yeah. It's out of our hands. But having said that, what is the Social Security number that Barack Obama is currently using, and why is it not his?
The number is 042684425, and it is not his because 042 is a number that, until the government changed it a year ago, was used exclusively for residents of the state of Connecticut. And unless you lived there and applied from there with your residential address on there, you didn't get 042 as the starting number.
Mm-hmm. Now, I remember Bill O'Reilly, who has been such a laydown about this. He has told so many different versions of his own story. But
Right.
Remember, Bill O'Reilly said, well, his father got it for him when his father went to Harvard. Remember
you
that?
know, and it just so happened I was flipping stations because I never watch O'Reilly because I don't like him.
I agree.
And I heard him say that, and I about went through the roof because Obama's father left Hawaii in the early 70s, went back like once in 79, and went back to Kenya.
Yeah.
He's never. I don't know that he even flew over the state of Connecticut.
I know, and it was like he went to Harvard, but that's in Massachusetts, and
Right.
he had nothing to do with that boy. And there are people that believe he's not even the biological dad. But having said those things, he was with another woman by that time, and what he drove down to. What's the little town in Connecticut you believe this came from?
You know what? I have never been able to pin it down.
Okay.
Because starting in 72, they were issued from Baltimore. So it didn't necessarily have to be like the number before his, which was, I think, Newington.
Now, in reading you and reading others, the Social Security number that's used by Barack Obama was previously issued to another person. Is that fair?
Yes, it's absolutely true. It was issued on March 28, 1977, to someone who was born in 1890.
Right.
And my theory has always been that people did not have to have Social Security numbers when it first started in 1936.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you worked for a company with 15 or more people, it was voluntary. And my theory was that it was probably a woman who, at the age of 87 years old, needed medical care but could not get one without having a Social Security number.
And so she applied, and
Right.
so 042684415 to
No,
44.
25.
Excuse me. They were, but in reading you and others, Social Security number is bracketing the number 042684415 to 4435 were issued in Connecticut 1977. All the numbers beginning with 042 until the government began issuing them in 2011. Numbers were assigned by the zip code of the mailing address.
Now, in 2 years ago, they changed it where they now randomly assign them.
All right, so he was and although the book is Jive, Dreams of My Father, the record does say that Barack Obama was living in Hawaii from 71 to 77.
Right.
And
no, he was there to 79.
To 79.
I'm graduated from high school.
You're right, 71 to 79. I apologize. And so, and his first job that he writes about was at Baskin-Robbins.
Well, if we can even believe that's true.
Okay, all right. So, but you can't track that back.
No.
How did the guy get this number? What's your best guess?
The best bet is that he had a number previously that was assigned to a foreign student, which he would have used at Occidental, and got money as a foreign student.
I agree.
And they didn't want anybody to be able to track that number back, so they had to come up with a new number.
I agree. What about on his, and there's all this bizarreness about registration for the draft, that he didn't do it.
No.
You tell that story because...
Well, he would not have had to do that as a foreign student. He did
exactly.
not. And what's really interesting is the letter that he received after he allegedly signed up for the draft, which would have been 1980. The letter that he received, it was on a form from 2007. So they're very careless about making their phony documents.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, and then when he gets involved in politics, some advisor, somebody somewhere, maybe he himself, said, you have to show where you registered for the draft, which he had not done because...
Right, because he'd be a felon if he didn't.
Exactly. And so he's enrolled, how do I say this? He he has been telling people that he is a foreign national. He's used
Right.
that to get himself into Colombia and to do all kinds of different things. Now his handlers have suppressed every and all verifications of that, or what people call credentials, or his,
Right.
or all. So then he goes and he manufactures himself having registered for the draft. Is that fair?
Yeah. And the huge mistake they made, I mean, it was just a gigantic mistake, is that on that alleged application for the draft in 1980, he uses the Connecticut Social Security number.
That's the first time?
So he is tied to that permanently. He can't say, oh, that was a mistake, I never used that number, because it comes right up on his verification.
So the first time that anyone can see the 042 goes back to his selective service?
No, I found it as early as 86. They then produced the document that was supposed to be from 1980, but that wasn't done until 2007 when they were forging all his other documents.
Wow. I mean, this story is so, I mean, when you tie it into all these other stories, and then this Loretta Fuddy dying and her family stepping forward.
Oh, yeah. What a coincidence.
What a crazy story. And then they find out that she's messed up in this Muslim cult.
Yep.
Oh my God.
I found her. I pulled her name up with that cult name, and a whole bunch of other people at an address in Honolulu.
They all show up.
Yeah, a whole bunch of people show up with her. But what's interesting is that when I pull up these documents, there are identifiers for people, like their date of birth or something like that. And there were probably 20 or 30 people on this list, and not a single one of them had an identifier with them, including her, although I, of course, know all her information.
So 042684425.
Right.
And now with my understanding from reading and that the last couple of years, even that has been suppressed, that no one, but there's been some early, quote, documents that prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he is improperly using a Social Security number that's not his. Now, what's happened in the last couple of years, Susan? Have they masked that as well?
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.